Hello, boys and girls. It is the 23rd of January. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about. First of all, um, medical tourism. For all of you who are still wondering or haven't convinced yourself that it pays to go to Russia for medical tourism, I'm going to give you a little example. So, I had to go do a procedure last Monday. Typical procedure of most men, sooner or later you're going to have to do it. It's called a colonoscopy. Colonoscopy. Yeah. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Most men probably do know what it is. And not only. So anyways, outside of Moscow, went to a private clinic. I've got government insurance, like everybody does, mandatory government insurance. It covers me for government clinics and government hospitals. I didn't want to go to a government hospital because there's a long wait. Now I just want to get it over with. Not exactly a favorite thing of anybody who's ever been through it. But anyways, I digress. Went to a private clinic because I could get in pretty fast and get it done, out of the way. Got a busy schedule. There is supplementary insurance that you can buy, or you can buy supplementary insurance that covers clinics, certain hospitals, private hospitals, some have their own insurance, so on. Certain employers, they'll get you supplementary insurance. I don't have any of that. And unless your employer is getting you supplementary insurance, it is, for the most part, in my opinion anyways, if you're relatively healthy, it is pointless to get supplementary insurance. Because what you're going to pay out of pocket is going to cost a lot less than that supplementary insurance. So I wanted to get a colonoscopy with sedation. I know what it feels like without. So with sedation. As you can see right here on the bill, that's 11,000 rubles out of pocket. That's $110. For those of you who aren't in the course, if you're paying out of pocket in the US, that's $2,500 on the average. 25 times more. Same equipment. Specialists. Yeah. American salaries are about 4 or 5 times higher than Russian salaries, and the expenses, especially medicine, are anywhere from 10 to 30, 40 times more. You're being screwed. You could come to Russia, and the money you would save on all of these procedures, you could easily afford your whole vacation. Now, for those of you who have insurance, sure, you're going to say, I've got insurance. Yeah, what's your deductible? $2,000, $3,000, $5,000? Yeah. What's your copay? And how much is that insurance running you? And how much percentage does that insurance cover? 100? Probably not. 80? 75? That's already much more than I'm paying. And I'm not paying for insurance. So there you go. And everything across the board is like that. If you think about it. If you look through it. I mean, it is, and it's top-notch care. And they don't kick you out before the sedation even wears off like they do in the U.S. Oh yeah, I've had that experience before too. And not to mention how many misdiagnoses. So anyways, there you go. So we'll get on to next more interesting topics than bowel inspections. So Trump out the gate, he starts his little thing on Ukraine. Now, as I have said and others have said, he could have just walked away from this whole war, but he can't. Why can't he? Because Trump isn't out for peace. Yeah, this is going to be a big explosion to some of these Trump fanatics, but he's not. Look, let's look realistically at this. The long game of the U.S. elites is the destruction of Russia. Okay? So let's go back. We've got George Bush Sr. that promises not a step east. Sure, they didn't put it on paper. Well, they had a memo, but they never actually signed an agreement on it. But what's the difference? The U.S. breaks every agreement it signs anyways the moment it's good for it. Just ask the American Indians, 200 plus 200 plus agreements signed, and they're all ripped up. Half of them were ripped up before the ink dried. So by Clinton in 1999, U.S. admits the first three: Hungary, Poland, and Czech. Then 2004 admits the next big wave. Already Bush Jr., Shrubbery, is already talking about Georgia and Ukraine are going to be in NATO. 2003 they do the Orange Revolution in Ukraine to put harder core pro-Westerners. And in 2004 they do the Rose Revolution in Georgia. That puts in whom? Puts in Saakashvili. Iratai Saakashvili. 2008, when Russia proposes the 3+1 negotiation, Saakashvili agrees on it, and that's the Georgia, Abkhazia, Southeast Asia plus Russia negotiations to form a confederacy in the south in Georgia to add Southeast Asia and Abkhazia in as confederate autonomous republics in this confederacy. Saakashvili says yes. Condoleezza Rice hackles her way over, and we get the 2008 war, which Georgia loses pathetically in this case. But in that 2008 war, 6-day war, that Saakashvili eats a tie on live TV. You can still look it up on the internet. Very interesting thing to watch. As a man who's finding out how badly his forces are being wiped out starts chewing on a tie and swallows the whole damn thing. One of those comedy moments, even though people were dying. So the Russian army wasn't even expected to move, but it moved. And it broke the Georgians. The war was over in 6 days. The Russian army did move badly, though. And Washington noted that. Took a lot of pride in itself that it could do anything it wanted to. Problem with Washington, of course, is it's blind. It sees only what it wants to see, because the Russian generals also saw how bad it moved compared to what it should have done. And they started reforms, a lot of reforms. Washington missed all that. So 2013, Washington, and Washington, by the way, is spending money at this point on radicalizing as much as possible Ukraine. The Orange Revolution falls through because Poroshenko, Timoshenko, and the other clowns they put in power, they can't stand each other. None of these guys can stand each other. And they break up all very relatively quickly. Anyways, 2012, 2013, Washington starts the Maidan Revolution in Ukraine. 2014, they overthrow the government, put out and out Nazis into power. This is under Obama's watch. They helped them start a civil war to wipe out the Russian-speaking population in the East that wants federalization. They didn't actually want independence. They wanted federalization. Crimea was a different case. Crimea was already autonomous. They never wanted to be part of Ukraine. In 1991, they voted not to be in Ukraine. But drunk Yeltsin and the West really didn't bother listening to what the people in Crimea wanted. So they got stuck, at least for a while anyways. And the Russian military that was already located in Crimea and otherwise moved very quickly, which the little green men, which really shocked the West with the speed and organization that was involved. So anyways, Obama gets them, the Ukrainians, to start a civil war. The Ukrainian army performs pathetically. Constantly getting itself into one cauldron after another. Oh, Kursk, yeah! And look at the rest of the front line. One cauldron after another. That's a Ukrainian tradition. Get themselves in a cauldron and then try to extradite themselves through mass casualties. And they carry that out every single day, and still do. So anyways, the U.S. starts, and NATO start a major program of refurbishing the Ukrainian army. Obama leaves, Trump walks in, and he starts a major program of arming the Ukrainian army. Trump pumped in a massive amounts of weapons into Ukraine. Mr. Oh, you, myself, and Vladimir Putin have a great relationship, and I really respect the Russian people. Bullshit. Not for a second does he respect the Russian people, nor does he understand the Russian people. It's just more words from the elites who are hell-bent on Russian destruction. The American elites. And the British elites who have been hell-bent on American destruction since we were the first nation to recognize the U.S. Since 1776 and before. Anyways, Trump armed the Nazis. Trump armed them up their teeth. The war was prepared. The winning time fell on the shoulders of Merkel and Hollande, Germany and France. Minsk 1, Minsk 2. Their duty was to win time. And the Ukrainian army was being prepared not just to exterminate the population in the east, but to fight a war with Russia on Russian soil. As, by the way, Merkel admitted to the media. Nobody's holding a gun to her head. She was quite thrilled and happy to admit everything she could. And Hollande ran the next, 2 days later, and did in France. Merkel just beat him to the punch. Show how good she was for the West. So this war was ready to run. Trump lost. Biden comes in. And what's the difference? Biden launches the war. That's prepared. I mean, this is multi-presidential 30-year plan. Russia was supposed to fold within 2 weeks. Okay, 2 months. Well, maximum 6 months. Right? So none of that happened. Not only did Russia not collapse internally, not only did the Russian economy not go away and crumble, Russia got stronger. And the Russian army stopped every counter advance and started winning land back. And started the attrition war of exterminating the Ukrainian army and all the NATO mercs that could be tossed in there. And the march started to the west. And by the way, Russia is gaining on average 20, 30 square kilometers per day. And this is attrition warfare, where overwhelming artillery firepower, overwhelming aviation firepower is just literally exterminating the Ukrainian army, which is taking between 2,000 to 3,000 KIA killed in action every single day. So if NATO wants to come in, by all means, we'll test just how thick your intestines are, how many casualties you can handle. Because if your average NATO country, if NATO forces come in, say Britain, France, Germany, and they're taking on average 2,000 casualties a day, 300 casualties per country, let's say, and then 1,000 casualties for the Ukrainians. Well, let's see how long that goes before the people start bulking. Because, France threw its entire army, 250,000 men. That sounds a lot. But in reality, it's only about 50,000 fighting men. The rest of that is support. That's right, it's support. It's the truck drivers, it's the medics, it's the cooks, it's the mail people, and the finance people, and so on and so on and so on. Now, if the French army fully came in, 50,000, of course, I don't know what France would do then for defending the home cities from its own people, but okay. So 50,000 French combat troops come in, and they're taking 300 casualties a day. Dead. We're not talking wounded. Twice as many wounded. Heavily wounded. So we're talking about, say, around 1,000 a day. In less than 2 months, there will be no French army capable of doing anything. In 1 month, they'll be totally combat incapable for the most part, because you're going to have ruined units down to about 30-40% of their strength. Same thing for the Germans, and even faster for the British. They're basically a non-existent military force of a second-rate island nation that only holds up anything to do with anything because it's close to the U.S. That's what keeps any kind of self-respect, if you can call being a lapdog to Uncle Sam a self-respect. So what, the two divisions the English can throw in there, how long do you think they're going to last? But that's the reality of it. And if the U.S. comes in, oh, and by the way, Zelensky at Davos, he made he was talking about how the EU is going to collapse because of the U.S. Doesn't respect it. It's trying to play these guys off. But he also had a nice little interview where he's saying, yes, we're welcoming all of your troops to us. Of course, and without America, there wouldn't be anything. So American troops were waiting for you to come in. Of course, you're not going to be sitting in the city centers like in Kiev, defending Kiev while we fight. You're going to be on the front line with us. Congratulations, America. Come on over. Let's see how long the U.S. people are going to be able to stomach having 300-400 dead a day on the battlefield, with twice as many wounded. Oh, well, let's see how long the 82nd Airborne, 101st Airborne, and the 1st ID are going to be able to hold that battle line. And believe you me, if the Americans show up, everything's going to be landing on them. They're going to be target number one. Big time target number one. The British and the French will be target number two. Or the Germans. They're stupid enough to come in there and get exterminated again for a third time around. So, how long will the American people handle it? Let's see. Vietnam was 56,000 dead over, about 8 years. Afghanistan and Iraq were about 6,000 dead and about 40,000 wounded over 10 years. Oh, Afghanistan, hell, over 19 years. If you're taking 300 dead a day, just dead, that's 2,100 dead a week. That's 4,200 dead every 2 weeks. That's 8,400 dead every month. Just in dead, you've basically lost half a division. In wounded, you've lost another 1.5 divisions, or one full division. So in about in a very short period of time, 82nd Airborne and 101st Airborne would get attrited to absolutely combat ineffective. They'd actually be scraps of the divisions they were. And then you get to explain to the American people why there's thousands upon thousands of body bags coming back. And Arlington Cemetery is getting real wide with new bodies and new graves. Not to mention the overwhelming of the medical facilities. But hey, okay. So Trump out the gate. And now it's the problem happened that the war that was prepared, that Biden did his part in initiating, did everything they could. Russia struck right before the Ukrainians were supposed to begin their offensive and exterminate the Russian population in eastern Ukraine. The one that they're not pushing down and abjectly murdering in the territories they were holding. So Russia struck first. And the first Ukrainian army died pretty much so in 22. The reconstituted second Ukrainian army died on the Kharkiv offensive when they left Kharkiv with the heavy armor and went right underneath the Russian artillery and aviation. And what was reconstituted of that died in Zaporozhye in the summer offensive, where they lost to gain 120 kilometers of land. That's 12 by 10 kilometers, or 8.5 miles by 6 miles. They lost 80,000 dead. Think about that. You want to talk about World War I statistics for a little piece of land in one village that is on low ground that was wiped out down to the basements. But they dug in because there was a political issue. So the third reconstituted Ukrainian army is dying right now. And a good chunk of it was already dead in Kursk, 40,000. Well, about a third of those were Western mercs, particularly American, British, French mercs. Up there, maybe mercs, shit-dipped mercs. So now what's the problem? What do you do? Obviously enough, the Ukrainian army's dying. This whole war is a failure. You've got to buy a peace deal. Not a long-term peace deal, but a short-term peace deal to reconstitute the fourth Ukrainian army, pump in as much NATO as you can in there. Ukraine will be NATO, but NATO will be in Ukraine as peacekeepers, right? And get all this together so in 3-4 years you can restart the war on better terms. And think that, the Russians are so stupid or so desperate they don't understand that. Well, the dead job has fallen onto Trump's shoulders. And Trump has done the stupid speech from day two. And what did he say? First, I love the Russian people. Bullshit. You want Russia destroyed. I mean, let's be realistic. I love the Russian people. We must remember they helped us win World War II. Yeah, we helped you win World War II to such a degree against the Germans that we killed 80% of Hitler's forces. And you and the British and the Greek and constituted French and all the others got the other 20. Of course, we didn't burn every single German city. That was you and the British that did that. 5 million civilians killed. And another 70,000 killed in northern France, French civilians. For some reason, he just started burning French villages and towns. Firestorms. Everybody remembers Dresden, but Dresden was just the last city. Every German city was burnt. I did a research paper on that, by the way, when I was at university. Topic was assigned to me. I didn't even choose it, didn't know about it, but now I know quite a lot about it. So thank you for that major that assigned that topic for me. Even though he didn't really know anything about it and was shocked and didn't like my paper because of the conclusions I came to. But anyways, that's all aside. So now what do you do? What do you do? And supposedly we also lost 60 million people. Well, it's 27 million, 20 million civilians, 7 million soldiers. 2.5 million of whom were starved to death in POW camps by the Germans between 1941 and 1942 in the winter. If you actually look at combat losses, the Red Army lost about 5 million men, 4.5, 5 million men. If you look at the Nazi losses, they were about the same. The bigger losses are, like I said, due to the mass murder in the concentration camps of Russian POWs, particularly from 1941. And then there's the civilians that they mass murdered. But, Americans love this. The Russians lost in the Civil War, and Russian Civil War like 20 million, then Stalin butchered like another 70, 80, 150 million quadrillion Russians. And they lost another quadrillion Russians in World War II. Jeez, but we breed like rabbits? How many of us were there? In 1917, there were 143 million citizens of the Russian Empire. So the Soviet Union, after the Civil War, obviously had a lot fewer people because Finland was no longer part and Poland was no longer part of the Soviet Union. And then somehow out of, at that point I think it was about 150 million. But somehow we lost another 60 million. And Stalin murdered another 40 million, or 50 million, or 60 million, depends on which American expert will tell you that. So apparently there was like 20 million Russians that beat back most of Europe. That's how badass we are. And then we bred like rabbits. And with the collapse of the Soviet Union, just Russia itself had another 150 million people in it. Wow. I mean, talk about breeding like mad. I mean, our women were pumping out 15, 20, 30 kids a pair. Believe it or not. At least if you believe American statistics. Like everything else in Americans write history, it's usually total BS. Anyways, I digress. So anyways, as we're going on, Trump announces that, Putin's going to come to the table or else. Or else what? Oh, he's going to lay on massive tariffs on anything Russia sells to America. Well, Mr. Brightlight, American-Russian trade in 2024 was $3.7 billion. That ain't crap. And if you put, by all means, by the way, put tariffs on that's right, we did counter-sanctions on uranium. And yeah, by the way, we process 70% of the world's uranium for fuel rods. That one's about to kick in pretty soon, too. You're going to feel the pain of that. Sure, by the way, heavy oil, heavy sour crude, by all means. Let's see, the only three places that heavy sour crude comes out of is Russia, Iran, and Venezuela. Oh, darn, all those refineries in the south that were set up for Venezuelan oil, they all run off, are designed to distill or do the cracking process on heavy sour crude. It'll be several $billion and months out of whack, cutting down on the gasoline production in the U.S. and lots of jobs to refurbish those plants to something else. That's why they haven't been doing that. Way too expensive. Never mind the hit on the U.S. economy. By all means, block it all. Block it all. Put another bullet in your average American consumer. MAGA isn't smart enough to figure out what's coming their way. Oh, and there's going to be 100% tariffs on bricks. Okay, well, bricks, by the way, sells you either your subcomponents or your raw materials for most anything that's manufactured in the U.S. Now, there's that much manufactured. Oh, and they sell you most of your manufactured goods, too, while you're at it. Trying to make a single American product that doesn't use subcomponents that comes out of at least one BRICS nation. Just try that. And for your information, by the way, just as a comparison, Russian-Chinese trade last year was $245 billion, as opposed to $3.7 billion with the U.S. Oh, darn, the U.S. is going to really sanction the hell out of our trade. Okay, sanction it all you want, block it all you want, tariff it all you want. In the end, it's going to be the end consumer sucking all that price up. They'll feel it. They'll feel it hard. And by the way, piss off the Chinese even more. Good God, the counter tariffs are great. Our agriculture gets into China ever more as it blocks U.S. agriculture and counter tariffs and counter sanctions. Woo, welcome to reality. You're not the big boy on the block anymore. Oh, what's the other thing that Trump said? He's going to just pile in easy to burn Bradleys and Abrams M1s, the old Abrams. Okay, who's going to man those? Who's going to man those? Ain't enough Ukrainians to do it. They're ready, by the way. Zelensky, as it's been leaked through several members of the Rada, the parliament, Zelensky's already having his press gangs grabbing 18, 19-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and they're also doing mass propaganda to brainwash these kids into just joining willingly. So we've been killing off a lot of those young kids because they're in the trenches, they're fighting, and every 6 Ukrainian soldiers is a woman. So we're talking full, extinction of the population and what isn't going to become part of Russia. Isn't going to become part of Russia. Isn't going to get returned to Russia. It's all Russian land to begin with. That's how America is going to save Ukraine. That's right. That's how Trump is going to end this war. Think about it. And while we're at it, MAGA crowd, here's your next shock. Trump didn't waste any time at all. For all of you who thought that, big tech and the pharma industry was going to be held responsible for what they did during COVID, right. Again, look who owns Washington and owns the presidents. Just take a look. Never mind you got Mark Rubio making his first phone call to his real owners, the ones that gave him over $1.5 million in donations, Israel. Never mind that's the priority in everything that America does. And they get free health care. You don't, but you get to pay for their free health care through your taxes. And by the way, when they can't get the medical treatment that they need in Israel, they fly at government expense and get it at government expense in the U.S. Well, government expense of Israel is America's government expense. Think about that one. Who owns you? You don't get it, but they do. And there's not a single alliance document signed between the U.S. and Israel. Nope, not one. Nothing. That's interesting, too, if you think about that. So anyways, I digress. I do that a lot. You notice that, I'm sure. So, Stargate. So, Oracle is going to make the Omni database of all the databases. That's going to compile all your information into one central database. Plus, they're going to be able to track you through drones, cameras, and body cams of the police. Or as they said, then everybody will be on their best behavior. Because you're being tracked at every single step you take. How long do you think before Stargate Patriot points are going to show up? Did you cross at a red light? We'll take some Patriot points off. Did you buy the right brand of Kellogg's poison? Then you get some more Patriot points. Oh, you grew your own vegetables? Minus Patriot points for that. Oh, not too many Patriot points. Oh, well, we're gonna have to shut you down, or you're gonna not get that loan, or you're late on an electric bill because you might have lost your job. Well, some more Patriot points are gonna cost you. Yeah, you think that's not coming? Oh, that's coming. That's Trump coming. So all the tech giants like Bill Gates, Zuckerberger, they in Russian it's called переобулись в воздухе, or change their boots while flying in the air. You jump from one side to the other and you change your boots to match the boots of the other side. Yeah, they did that real quick. And we don't quite know what Gates and Trump had discussed together, but I'm sure it's some more big pharma, big ag that Gates is big into. But the other ones ran over real quick. Oh, and once they get all your other data, they're gonna get your DNA and they're gonna decode your personal genome. So that way they can cure your cancer, whether or not you're ever gonna have cancer. The last jabby jab that happened caused turbo cancers. I wonder if this new jabby jab to cure the cancers is going to cause anything. But it'll be interesting. If the people that maybe their opponents or criticize them suddenly get turbo cancers. Just a thought. That would be horrible, of course. Unfortunate. Because, safety checks? What safety checks? How are you going to safety check this? On a personalized level. Your Patriot points will, how many Patriot points that'll cost you? Food for thought, dear fellows. And if you're thinking the EU, the same isn't coming, the same EU, but by the way, Van der lying, Vendor insane. Oh, but yes, that is another point. This is more of a clown world point at this point. Van der Leyen stated, apparently, evil Putin one day just woke up, of course, and decided to invade Ukraine, because we know that. That's just how dictators roll. We just, let's go. I didn't get a good night's rest. I didn't sleep in a Holiday Inn today, so let's go invade Ukraine. And parallel with that, he just decided, well, screw it. If we're invading Ukraine, let's cut off the EU from gas. So apparently cutting off the EU from Russian gas and forcing them to suffer and buy more expensive American gas to show their loyalty is all Putin's fault. That's right. He even probably blew up Nord Stream and blamed it on some a little Ukrainian oligarch and his crew full of misfits. Because, they roll like that. Dictators, That's right. That's how it just rolls. Just one day you wake up, I got a headache, I pulled a muscle while I was sleeping on my arm or something like that. Let's invade Ukraine. Why not? At least we didn't Gaza it. Think about that. Have a good night and God bless.